Good morning. It's now day 3 in the kitchen. I think we're going to get it finished today. I'm actually going to put this as a 2-part video because I was editing last night and the first 2 days of this video are like an hour and 15, hour and 20 long already, which is a huge marathon of a video to watch as it is. So I'm going to put this one as a part 2, but I'm going to upload them both on the same day. So you don't have that whole waiting for part 2, that's so annoying. So yeah, today we are going to do the low levels. So we're going to do the bins, the radiators, the skirting boards, the low level cupboards, and we're going to do a deep scrub clean on the floor. I'm going to try and get the doormat shampooed as well. That's kind of going to depend on when my husband's asleep. I can't do it now because I've got the kids asleep and then when he comes home he'll be asleep, so we'll try and get that done if we can. If not, I will upload that at a later date as like a short. It's quite a satisfying thing to clean with the little spot wash. So yeah, I'm gonna get the camera set up. I think I'm gonna start today with the bins because I can leave them out in the garden soaking in dis. Okay, so let's get going with the bins. The first thing I'm going to have to do is empty them because despite me emptying them just a couple of days ago, they're full again. Fun and games. So I'm just going to pop these outside the back door really quickly because today is bin day and they haven't taken our bin just yet. So I will pop them out into the bins once the guys have been and collected the old bins. So job 1 is just to empty them out and put everything out of the way. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of Zoflora into each of the bin bases, main cavities, what you want to call them. And then I'm going to top that up with a couple of jugs each of nice hot water. It's not boiling water, it's just hot from the tap. It does just as well as the kettle, and like I was saying in the previous video, the kettle would take literally about an hour to boil enough water to actually do this with. So hot water from the tap is fine. And then I'm going to pop the lids and lid supports into the bins to sit and soak, and I'm going to leave them to soak outside the back door while I get on with some other jobs. I've just added a tiny bit of fairy liquid as well, just to help to release any kind of greasy mess that's sat at the bottom of the bins. They actually looked pretty good today, so I'm confident that I shouldn't have to do much else. So while they're soaking, I'm moving on to the radiator. I'm just going to show you really quickly how I take them off. I take off the 2 little clips and then I use a small flathead screwdriver to kind of lever the bottom to lift the edges off, and then I just slide them up and they come off. It's easy if you've got something to lever the bottom with. If you're trying to do it with your hands, it's really quite difficult and you will cut yourself because it's very, very sharp. So please be careful. I've found that the screwdriver works the easiest. So I'm going in between the little gaps with my tumble dryer brush. I have had a look to see if I can get some radiator brushes, and I have found some for the next deep clean. So I'll be using this one today, but when the next deep clean comes along, hopefully I will have my radiator brushes ready to go to do this. This radiator gets cleaned more than the others, purely because of the proximity to the bins. It's always getting splashed with things, and with its proximity to the back door, it also gets pretty dusty, especially during the summer when all the neighbours are out cutting their grass and digging and things like that. You get a lot more dust coming in through the back door. So this one does get opened up and cleaned out a lot more frequently than the others do, but it was still grimy today, so definitely needed a clean. I'm using my little detail brush just to get into the corners at the top, and then I am going over the whole thing with my Zoflora on a microfiber cloth. Sorry, I'm forgetting my words today. I've got an awful headache. It's not helping me to remember my words. So the main frontage of the radiator I am doing with my Dishmatic as usual, and then I will go over that with the microfiber just to kind of, it doesn't really need disinfecting, but I like the smell of the Zoflora. And I find if you put it onto the radiators, so long as it's dilute, please don't forget the concentrated Zoflora is flammable. If you're going to be taking it anywhere near anything that's warm or anywhere near anything that has a naked flame, you need for it to be diluted. Do not take it anywhere near it if it's still in its concentrated form, or you're going to have problems, and I don't want to risk that. So it's diluted Zoflora. I'm just going over the front, taking all the bubbles off, and I'm going off on the valves on each side and getting the dust off of those as well. We have a particular spider that likes to live around this radiator, and he is so elusive. Every time I go near the radiator, he shoots up the back of it and I can't get him. And I'm not paying somebody sort of, I don't know how much it would even cost, between 40 and 60 pounds to take the radiator off the wall just so I can get the spider when there will be another one in there the next week. I might be able to kind of shoo him out with the new radiator brush, and then I can get rid of him once and for all. But yeah, there's usually a web sitting on this radiator. So with the sides and the top, I am just holding them over my bucket of Zoflora water and going over them quickly with the microfiber cloth, with my little brush, and with my Dishmatic, whatever each particular bit needs. Usually the side that faces the bin needs a bit more of a clean, and it did stay as usual. And then I'm just going to stand them up and let them dry before I put them back onto the radiator. So while they're drying, I am going to deal with the area behind the bins. So this, you can't really see very well in the video, but it's quite marked and stained, mainly by, I think, tea bags that have been flung in the general direction of the bin, pasta sauce, things like that, and because the wall is white, they have stained. So once I have redecorated the kitchen, which is on my job list for autumn, I will be popping some kind of barrier behind the bins. So I initially thought a piece of wood behind the bins to protect the wall, but that wouldn't look very good. And then I thought, okay, so what about a kind of rectangle, a large rectangle of acrylic mounted to the wall? That way I could just wipe it clean, and it will protect the wall still, and you could still see the colour of the wall. Slightly better, but still would look a bit strange because it's going to stick out from the wall. So I eventually decided on some of that clear sticky back vinyl stuff. I'm going to pop that on the wall. So once I've painted, I'm going to give it a good couple of weeks to really dry out, and then I'm going to pop some of the sticky pack vinyl on the wall. Now I'm aware that when I take this off, it's going to take the paint with it, and I'm going to make sure I'm prepared for that. I'm going to make sure I've got some of the paint available, because I'm not sure how long it's going to last. Obviously it's not going to last as long as a proper piece of acrylic will. So it's going to be a little bit of an experiment, but I think that's the least offensive visual look. Okay, I'm just pausing for a second before I move on to the lower cabinets, because I kind of want to show you guys the setup that I've got going on. I know that some people are a bit worried about me using the same things for the inappropriate areas. For example, I've just done the skirting boards, and now I'm going to do the insides of the cupboards. It's not very hygienic if I'm using the same stuff. So I'll show you the setup that I've got usually going on during a clean. So in the kitchen it's a bit easier because I've got the sink, but normally I have kind of two bowls. I have one with hot soapy water and one with hot water with Zoflora in it. I've got several cloths, some of which have, you know, the same design on them, so I can swap them out, but it might not come across on camera that I've actually swapped them out because some of them have got the same style. I also have, I went out and bought several packs of new heads for the Dishmatic. So this is the one I'm using on skirting and floor. This is the one I'm using in the cupboards. So please don't be alarmed, like I'm not using the same thing, but it's really going to appear
that I am. I just want to clarify that before anyone starts to worry. Everything's fine. It's just some things look the same. So anyway, let's get on with the cupboards.
So I'm moving on now to the lower cabinets. These should not take too long to do. However, no, they shouldn't be difficult to do, I should say. Time-wise, these are going to be the longest job in the kitchen, I think, because I still have some bits that I was keeping from when I did my spring clean all the way back in March, that I wasn't sure whether or not we were going to use. So there were some small appliances that we don't use very often, and I really wanted to kind of leave them in the cabinets and see if we used them between the spring clean and this clean in autumn. Some of them we have used, some of them we haven't used, and some of them we've used maybe once or twice. So I really need to make a judgment call on the ones that we've used maybe once or twice, get rid of the ones that we haven't used at all, and make proper homes for the ones that we definitely did use. So I think that's going to take the time, but the cleaning of the cupboards should be quite easy in itself. It's literally a case of taking everything out of the cupboards, taking the cupboard liners out and washing them, as you can see me doing here in hot soapy water, leaving them to dry completely because I can't put them back in the cupboards wet because obviously we'll get mould, and then kind of putting everything back in a more organised way, really. So I'm going to leave them on the draining board to dry, and I will come back and put the bits back in that cupboard when everything is dry. So moving on now to my cleaning cupboard. I still am having problems keeping this organised. I have decluttered in here several times. Random things keep creeping back in, particularly kind of garden things, bug sprays, fertilisers, things like that keep creeping back into this cupboard. So I might have to make a permanent space for them in the cupboard, but in order to do that I need to organise the rest of it. And I think the problem with the cleaning cupboard is that all of the cleaning products that I buy, I don't have that many anymore. I've got maybe 4 or 5 go-to cleaning products that I use all the time. And they're all in different size shapes of bottle, different heights of bottle, and so it's really hard to put them away in a fashion that they will actually all sit together nicely on the shelf. They kind of push each other around. It's like bullying going on in there. Other things will knock things over, they'll make it so I can't get my bowl into there, things like that. So I really am thinking about getting some of those reusable glass spray bottles, kind of like the ones that Purdy and Fig use, and just putting my go-tos, decanting them into those bottles so that I can have them look a bit more orderly in here. Now I could always find what I need in here, it's not an issue, but I am very much a visual person, and if I open up the cupboard and it looks as it did when I first opened this one, it just stresses me out. So I'm kind of working at the moment through my house and trying to make everything look calmer. Does that make sense? So that I'm not so stressed out when I'm looking at things. I'm not panicking that I've got too much. I'm not constantly clearing out the same messes in the same places over again. And hopefully it will work better for me and keep me in a better, more motivated frame of mind. So yeah, I think I'm going to order some of those bottles, maybe a few kind of pots and tubs to put the weird shaped things in, I'll figure out some kind of dispenser system for my cloths and things like that, and I think that will make a huge amount of difference. However, today obviously we're just cleaning, so what I'm doing is, as I'm going along, I'm kind of putting things into groups of kind of where in the house they clean, putting things to one side that I don't need anymore, and putting obviously the garden things in a separate place as well. So I'm moving on now to the drawers. I really like having these. Our old kitchen didn't have the stack of drawers, and I'm much preferring having these to the cupboard that we used to have. Everything used to get lost. So I'm just emptying everything out, going around the base of the drawer with a bit of Zoflora, letting it dry out, then popping everything back again in a more organised kind of ideal. So I thought I would have room on top of the worktop to empty out every single drawer simultaneously, clean them and then go through and put things back, but that didn't work out. So I've left the cutlery drawer out of the top one because I haven't dried the base of that drawer. I'm going on to the second drawer, which is where it's pretty much our junk drawer. We have medicines in here, sandwich bags, cooking utensils, things like that. So I'm going to actually dry this one as I go and pop things back in there as I'm cleaning, and then I'll chuck the cutlery drawer back into the top one when I'm finished. That should be dried out by then. So I'm just using a couple of pieces of kitchen towel just to dry up that Zoflora so I can put things in without them sticking to the bottom, without causing a issue with mould. So I'm trying to put everything back in a logical order, as I always do. It won't last long, it never does in this house, but it makes me feel better that I've put it back in a way that makes sense to me. So on one side I want to have all of our medications, burn cream, all that kind of stuff. We do tend to keep medications in this drawer. It's just a place that everyone can get to regardless of if people are asleep or in the shower. I know most people have their medicines in the bathroom, but if you've got someone in the shower and you've got a headache, you can't get in there for a painkiller. So it makes more sense to have them in the kitchen. And then on the other side, I'm just putting cooking utensils, food bags, things like that. We have a couple of rare use things that I'm putting towards the back, so like the birthday candles for the cakes and things like that, but that should work out a little bit better. So here we have the snap drawer, which is fully loaded at the minute, but again, will not last long. This tends to be used for kind of lunchbox things for Isabel at school and Adam at college. Rachel's working now, so she tends to grab her own lunch when she's out, or she'll grab something before she goes. She doesn't really take a lunch with her anymore. So yeah, this is all stocked up ready for the beginning of the school year. So my daughter goes back on Thursday, my son goes back on Friday. So we don't need all that much this week. I think this will be eaten down quite a lot before the end of the week comes along anyway. But yeah, we've just got a few bits, nothing incredible, a few snacky bits, a few treats, and I'm just going to pop them all back best I can so that it all fits. I think I'll have to do another food shop because this is pretty much all just junk and the schools don't like it when you send them in with junk. So yeah, bakeware drawer. Now, this is something I wanted to address. So with my bakeware, I tend to assess it during my autumn clean, and then I replace anything that's looking a bit old, a bit rusty, a bit worn down. I will replace it kind of in the next couple of weeks so that when it comes to my big Christmas bake-off, which I'm so excited to do, I've got some nice, clean, ready to go baking trays. I'm not having to worry about grease spilled up or anything like that getting on my yummy Christmas cookies. So I will be addressing those over the next couple of weeks. Exciting times. I can't believe Christmas is coming. It's so close. So this cupboard is a little bit of a nightmare. It does become a dumping ground very, very frequently. We kind of keep in here our pans, a bit more of our more rare use baking supplies, cling film, tin foil, juices, cereals, all the random bits that don't really fit in any of the other cupboards tends to end up in here. And it does bug me. This cupboard does bug me because even when it's organised, even when I've got everything where I want it, it still looks untidy in here, and I just don't think there's anything I can do about it. So I try not to let myself get too stressed out about it, but I also try not to come in here very often. So it was particularly bad today. I don't know if you can see in the video, I can't see it on my editor, but there were lots of black marks on the base of the cabinet where the pans had been put in. They're kind of scratched. That came up really easily actually with the Pink Stuff paste. And then I'm just going over this tiny little bit here that's kind of got a grease build up. I'm not sure what from, probably a baking tray or something like that that's had a bit of grease on it, or something's leaked down from the worktop when someone's been cooking at some point and has managed to pull in here. I don't know where it's come from. There's some grease. So of course I've got the elbow grease spray and the Dishmatic on it, and that's sorted that out, no problem at all. And then I will do the the liner later on. I did notice that this cupboard only had liner on one shelf, so I did get some more and put that in when everything had dried out, but I didn't bother filming that because that's a bit dull. Just putting in a cupboard liner. I keep wanting to say drawer liner. Cupboard liner. So that panel on the back is the access to the valves for the boiler, if anyone's wondering. My daughter did ask me, what's that there? It's a fairy door. No, it's just the access. So now you can see I've popped everything back in. It still does look untidy, but it's kind of organised chaos. I might look into, in the new year, maybe getting some pan racks and some pan lid racks and stuff like that, but I feel like they waste a lot of space. Although they make it look neater and tidier, they waste quite a bit of space. So we'll see, maybe I can come up with something. And again, just going over the front and the insides of the door with the Zoflora, just to make sure they're nice and clean and disinfected too. So this cupboard, my final cupboard, is where we keep all of our small appliances. I did actually clean it out. It took me about 2 hours because it was so stressful, and I did not film inside because I was so overwhelmed. But it is all done. We've got only the things that we use in there, and I have moved the food processor up onto the worktop because we have used it a couple of times, but we don't use it too often because it's such a faff to get out of that cupboard. So it's now on the worktop and we already are using it so much more. So I'm happy that I did that. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to give the kitchen floor a bit of a sweep. I'm not going to mop just yet because I've got to sort out the bins first. But I just want to give this a sweep because, again, it doesn't show up very well on the video, but there was so much grease and crumbs and all sorts of stuff going on the floor. I really wanted to get that sorted out. And before I mop and do the bins, I'm just going to finish off the last little bit of skirting board. I left this out earlier on because I knew I was going to be doing the cupboards, and I knew that would probably kick up a lot of dust and crumbs and things, which would end up sitting on the skirting board. So I'm going to do it now. And then I'm also going to go around the whole of the kitchen and do the kick boards that are underneath the lower cabinets. Just give them a clean. They do get really mucky, considering they are tucked away down there. They do get really mucky, and I do like to do these quite frequently, although I will admit it's been a couple of months since I've got to them this time around. It wasn't long after my spring clean that I actually did these, so they are particularly mucky today, but they've come up a charm. So this was just a bit of grease on the floor. I'm not sure what from even, so I'm just tackling that with a little bit of elbow grease spray and my Dishmatic as usual, just to get that out of the way before I bring the bins back in. Okay, so time for the bins. They have been soaking for a few hours because it took me a really long time to do the cupboards. So I'm popping on my gloves, which I will throw away at the end of this, and taking my bin. It's like a Dishmatic, but it came from Shein. So I don't know, it's a Sheen-matic. And I'm just using the Zoflora water in the bottom of the bin to just wash up the insides of the main cavity of the bin, and just to quickly go over the bin lids and the lid support top. I kind of do different stages of cleaning for each different thing. So the main cavity of the bin, this is the clean that it will get. It won't get anything else. The lid will get going over with a Zoflora wipe once it's dry as well, and I will also go over the the lid itself and this lid support that I'm currently cleaning with some Flash too. So I will be making sure that it's absolutely clean, do not worry. I don't go over it just with the water that I've soaked the bin in. I'm only going to show you one bin today because I don't want to bore you doing all three. I've emptied it out and I'm just putting some kitchen towel in the bottom to kind of absorb any extra moisture that I've got going on in there. And while that's happening, I'm going to spray a little bit of my Flash and use a clean microfiber cloth to kind of buff that in, make sure I'm getting into all the nooks and crannies, making sure that it's definitely clean, and then I will disinfect it afterwards once it's dry with a Zoflora wipe. If I haven't got the wipes, I will just use Zoflora on a separate microfiber cloth and use it like that. That's pretty much it for the bins. They don't take a huge amount to do. I will just get any moisture off the inner sides of the bin with the microfiber that I've used on the top, and that should do it. Bin bag in, lid on, bit of a wipe over with Zoflora wipe, and Bob's your uncle. Okay, so now the bins are in, we are finally on the home straight. This is the last job of the day and I'm so relieved. 3 days I've been scrubbing this kitchen. 3 days. It's been a nightmare, but it needed doing. I'm glad it's over. I can finally relax and settle into my autumn baking, which is one of my favourite things to do. So the last thing I'm doing today is cleaning the floor. I'm going over it with some hot soapy water and my Dishmatic. I'm giving it a good little scrub. I do have my spin scrubber, but I couldn't use it because my husband was in bed again. So that's going to have to wait for another day because it's quite a noisy little thing. So I'm just doing it a little bit at a time. I'm going over it with the Dishmatic, and then I'm just mopping with a clean mop head to remove the soap. The mop has been soaked in Zoflora, so again it's disinfecting as it's going around. So as you can see, like, I've done my whole kitchen. I've used pretty much just hot soapy water, Zoflora, a bit of stainless steel spray and a bit of glass cleaning spray, and that's done the whole kitchen. You don't need 1,000 different things to clean your home. Don't believe them. Don't buy all the million different things that you need, for cleaning. A few good things will do the job perfectly well. I was kind of expecting the floor to be dirtier than this. It was, I won't deny it, a little bit of a relief and a little bit of a disappointment at the same time. I really wanted to do like a dirty water dump when I finished this, but whatever I'm doing, on the daily basis, which is literally just a sweep and a mop most days, it seems to be working, because even with a scrub it just wasn't bringing up dirt. I guess I'm doing a good job.
there we go. This is it. Kitchen is complete and clean and happy. Everything is done. Top cabinets, fridge, lower cabinets, kettle, fryer, cooker, although someone's been in here since and made soup. So I'll have to do the cooker again, but I have to do that every day anyway. But yeah, all done and clean. I must admit I was dreading this one because I knew how much work there was, but I was determined to get it done. I have approximately an hour till I have to leave for work. I have literally been on this since 7:15 this morning. I stopped very briefly for lunch. I'm gonna have myself a nice cup of tea before I go to work, and when I come home all of this will be wrecked. But at least it is done. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope that you enjoyed the video. I hope that you enjoyed cleaning along with me, and I will see you again in the next one. Bye bye.